One of the most amazing things about this product is with one load of charcoal, we'll be able to have it cruise at 250 degrees overnight tomorrow or tonight while we sleep, while we're staying inside when it's warm, and we'll show you everything you need to know to do that and everything you need in order to do that. Here what I have here, obviously I have a pork shoulder. In this case you can get these in all different sizes, but I've got one that's 8.5 pounds. So that's the goal at 5 o'clock. If we light the egg at 5 o'clock, this should be ready pretty close to 1 o'clock tomorrow, which is our target time. I've got my smoking woods, which we've talked about this, the bourbon infused smoker bricks and the oak. So these are actually parts of the whiskey barrel. I like oak and hickory both. You can do whatever flavor wood you like, but I've got my wood that's ready to go. Beans, I'm gonna make beans. I'm not honestly gonna share that recipe, but we'll show you how I actually prepare those. Whatever rub your favorite rub is. My favorite for a pork shoulder and ribs both is Dizzy Pig Red Eye Express. This is a coffee infused rub. Just does an amazing job on anything that you're cooking for a long time, and it just you're wanting to get that bark on the outside of the pork shoulder, and this does an amazing job. I've got my pans both for my beans, and I think we may do another side that we'll determine between now and then. Maybe some au gratin potatoes or mac and cheese or something. We'll figure that out. The good news is with this, I've got until tomorrow at 1 o'clock to come up with the rest of the sides. Drip pans, and then pink butcher paper. So at some point in time, probably tomorrow morning, I will come out and take the pork shoulder off, and I'm going to wrap it in pink butcher paper. What that does is protects the bark so that it doesn't continue to cook on the outside. I think that is everything we need to cover. Charcoal, you got to make sure you have that. So what I'll do is actually show you how I prepare the egg for this long of a cook, in terms of, because we're smoking here. This is the first time. Everything's been baked and grilled so far, but this will be the first time we're going to smoke. It takes a long time, but it has great results. So this is in the condition from the last time we were here. I'll remove this. Okay, so what I have here is charcoal from the last time that we cooked. Locate my ash tool. And as we mentioned before, it's not a dirty job. I'm not going to do anything but use my ash tool and kind of stir what's already in there. And the goal there is just to get any of the ash that's in there to fall off. Okay, and normally you wouldn't have to do this. If you were doing ribs or something, I would just skip this step. Since this is going to be an overnight cook, I'm actually going to layer the smoking woods. So this is how we get smoked. This is hickory. So I'm going to drop some of the, you can do chunks or chips, because that's what's actually going to get the smoke flavor. So I go pretty heavy on this, and the reason why, there's no way that you can over smoke a pork shoulder. It's impossible. Once the meat hits a certain temperature, it doesn't take the smoke flavor on anymore. So there is no risk of over smoking it. However, my beans are going to be on in the morning. So if I don't have this on here, I'd have to take it back to add more. I don't want to add more smoking woods once it's going. So I like to layer it so this thing is smoking the entire time. So as I'm putting different things on, I'm getting that smoke flavor. So I'll do that. I've got enough charcoal to cook for 20 plus hours, so I'm going to add more on top of that. When you are doing a long cook like this, this is where normally, I've already filled it beyond the line. Normally we recommend that you go to about this point right here for just about any cook, that you would fill the charcoal to that spot right there. For a longer cook like this, I'm actually going to fill it up to where I'm about halfway up on this outer ring. The only reason for that, I mean, 20 hours is a long time. That's about the time. We're going to light this at 5 o'clock, and we're going to eat at 1 tomorrow. So that's a long time, but that charcoal will actually last that entire period. So you can kind of get a visual. And then this goes in place right over the top of it. And of course, I've got my drip pan there. That's one that we've used before. It's just, I think the biscuits might have been on that before. So that's just going to catch all the drippings from the pork when we do that later. So while that's warming up, we'll get our pork shoulder ready. We're going to cook two things tonight. The pork shoulder is going to go on, and then we also have the beans. So I'm going to show you what I do on the pork shoulder. I'm not going to reveal my baked bean recipe, but only the golden retriever knows that. And she's inside, so she's not talking. It starts, you saw the ingredients, it starts with Bush's beans, and then I have about 10 ingredients that I put in there, but you could probably figure it out. I will tell you, yeah, maybe you can figure out from looking at the beans. It is modeled after my favorite baked beans on the planet Earth in Kansas City, Fiorella's Jack Stack Barbecue. If you've ever been there, if you have, you know, they have, in my opinion, the best beans on the planet Earth. They actually, you can Google it, they actually did a video one time of how to make those beans right from the kitchen. So you can kind of get that, and then I took that and I incorporate a few of my own ingredients to make it mine, so that they're not Jack Stack beans, they're Kenny beans. So we'll get started here by rubbing the pork shoulder. I like to use gloves, just so when I'm done. I use olive oil, just want to get some moisture to give the rub something to stick to. I know. As we mentioned earlier, going to be using Dizzy Pig's Red Eye Express. This is a coffee infused rub that just goes amazing on pork shoulder, ribs, anything that you cook for a long time. And there's really no magic to the rub other than this is not something like you would do a steak where you just put a little salt and pepper. When you're doing a rub, you actually want to pat it in, make sure you're getting it all the crevices and stuff, and don't be afraid to pile it on. This is going to be your bark on the pork shoulder, so you do not want to go light. Always get the fat side here too. Take a peek at our egg. Okay, we're rocking and rolling here. So what I'm going to do now is damper the temperature down to get it down to 250, which is going to be just a slight opening at the top. And as we talked about, a credit card down here at the bottom. And that will smolder, it'll start to smoke, and that'll bring our temperature back down. We're going to try and get that nice and steady. Since I'm using, well, I'll say this. If we weren't going to be using, I wanted to show and demonstrate how you can use one of the temperature controllers. You don't have to do that. I like to do that if I'm going to be running errands and I want to make sure that nothing happens while I'm gone. I've got to where I do that. The egg will go fine overnight and probably wouldn't have any issues, but I do find when I use one of these on an overnight cook, I sleep better because I know it's a fan that's actually going to control the temperature. So if anything happened overnight, nothing's going to go out. It works on an app. We'll show you how it works on an app on a phone. We've got our setup here. This is the expander. If you don't have this already, new from Bigger Egg. Number one, it holds that convector. I've got that convector. You can see I've got the drip pan in there, but it also has the second shelf. This slides back, catches so it doesn't. My beans are going to go on top, and we're going to put the shoulder on the middle there. It's going to get smoky now. I love this part. Don't know if my neighbors do or not. I'm going to slide that back out of the way. Put that in place, right in the middle. And then we've got our beans that are going to go on top. So I'll talk about the process here, what we're going to do. So it's 520, that was pretty quick. That temperature internally is not all the way up to 250, but it's going to slowly come up, so no worry there. We're just going to let this thing cook slow overnight. The beans are on top. I will let the beans cook tonight and smoke them tonight with that heavy smoke. That's why I like that heavy smoke. Let the beans cook tonight. Before I go to bed, I'll pull them off, wrap them in foil, put them in the fridge, and then tomorrow morning when I get up, I will take the pork shoulder off because it'll be majority of the way done. It'll probably still be in what they call the stall, where it hits a certain temperature and just stays there for a long time. And then I will take pink butcher paper and wrap the pork shoulder in the butcher paper. And what that does, it keeps the moisture in it, but it also protects the bark. You don't want to have it to where it's just black like a piece of coal, but you want that bark on the outside. So I'll finish it in that. When I do that, actually before I do that, I'm going to take the beans tomorrow morning and put them underneath the shoulder when it's probably about 160 degrees and all that fat starts to melt, and it melts down inside the beans. That's also what Jack Stack barbecue, that's how they get that meat flavor in their beans. If it's done ahead of time, pretty easy trick. So we'll show the process. We're just going to pull the pork is really the only step that's left. I'm going to cover those beans. Process on the beans real quick while I've got them out. These went on. We showed you they were on at the same time the pork was last night. And then I let them go until about 10 o'clock, I think it was last night when I pulled them off. And then I put them in the fridge before I went to bed. And then this morning, after I wrapped the shoulder in the pink butcher paper, which you can see, I think I posted a picture of that. I put the butcher paper pork on the top shelf, the beans on the bottom. warm the beans back up and let some of that grease from the pork drip into it, so you get kind of that meat flavor on the inside.
So the grease drops through the butcher paper?
Yes. So butcher paper is not like foil. It keeps a lot of the moisture in, but if you've got any kind of grease or anything in there, it's still going to actually go through the butcher paper. So it protects your bark so that you don't get it so black on the outside and overdo it on that. So what we did at 11 o'clock, and this trick will work for up to 5 hours, believe it or not. I have done it before. It will still burn your hands 5 hours after. So I've got a cooler. You can use any cooler, and it takes several towels. So there's a towel on the bottom. So at 11 o'clock, what I did is I took the pork shoulder off. I double wrapped it in aluminum foil, put a towel in the bottom of this cooler, and then placed it in there. It's not a big enough cooler to actually wrap, but normally I would actually wrap it with a towel after you do the foil, then put it in there, and then put another towel on top. So it takes 3 towels. You might check and make sure you're using the right towel for this project, because it does, occasionally a little bit of it will drip onto that bottom towel for sure. Okay, I wish if you were here you could feel this. It will actually burn your hand. It's still hot, and it's been a little over 2 hours. We better check the potatoes. That's probably ready to come off, you think?
Definitely.
So this was put on earlier. I'm going to disconnect the flame boss. Nobody's watching that now. And I can probably just, I don't burn my hand, I'm going to set it right there. So this is a potatoes au gratin recipe that we were going to have, what was it, mac and cheese. The jalapeno mac and cheese was originally our plan. We didn't have any jalapenos. So we scrapped that idea, and Shonda put together this scallop potato as a side. Because there's no sense in running to the store just for jalapenos. So you can see this is just out here. That's the other half. This is the Dutch oven, the oval Dutch oven from Big Green Egg. I wanted to show this. Normally we cook like short ribs, chili, all kinds of stuff in the bottom, but even the top is big enough that you can use it. It's just the 2 of us, so we actually cook it in that. It's real easy cleanup. Okay, we're done with the egg. Okay, so while that's cooling down, so here, so this is double wrapped in foil, and you want to be careful when you're undoing. This is scorching hot even after 2 hours. I'm going to keep one of these to cover it when we get done.
Oh, it smells so good.
I left it in the butcher paper. So yes, you can see there that the liquid does go through there, but it protects the bark. It does keep some of the moisture in. It's great on brisket, of course on a pork shoulder. You can use it for all kinds of stuff. And we sell it by the roll. I think at the store you can actually buy it by the yard, but I knew I was going to use it enough with my habits that I just bought a whole roll of it. Okay, so there's the fat side. I like to use these pans just for, and actually put it in there and leave it. If you have any questions at all, feel free to ask. Today we can actually take the questions live because it's pretty much just a final step here. If you didn't see the previous videos, you can go back and rewatch those. Okay, a couple of forks. I normally use a product called Bear Claws, Meat Claws. Now the bone just fell out there, that's encouraging. You can actually, meat just pulls off there. Okay, so I'm trying to think the total time on this was about 17 hours, I think, on the cook. So
Bob is watching from the golf course in Pennsylvania.
Nice. Hi, Bob. Gonna make Bob hungry here. So just take a fork. If you have the meat claws, I like to use the meat claws. I've misplaced them somewhere or loaned them out. We take them everywhere when we do the pork. So you can just see this will just pull apart. And I usually just pull enough. We're gonna make sandwiches out of this. So I would say just pull enough that you need. You can see it's still steaming hot. Plenty of moisture. Does an amazing job.
Virtual bite?
Sure.
Oh,
That was an 8.5 pound. You got that bark on the outside. That's what you're going for. I probably could have put it in paper a little bit sooner, but it tastes good.
oh, it's delicious.